Hello again. The presidency is smaller under President Mahama, but the cost of compensation is projected to rise by more than 148% in 2026, raising fresh questions about the true cost of running the Jubilee House. Well, the presidency in 2025 shared more than 120 political appointees and over 100 staff compared with the last publicly available figures from 2023. Well, President Mahama had 233 political appointees at the Jubilee House last year, down from 357 in 2023. Yet, despite the smaller headcount, compensation of employees at the presidency is projected to more than double this year. An analysis by Joy News Research also suggests that changes in how some positions are classified may make direct comparisons between the two administrations more complicated. A member of our research team, Caleb Ziblim, has been providing details.
If we compare the numbers in 2023, that's the last publicly available data. 2023, the presidency had 357 political appointees. Now, that's not the total staff of the presidency. The total staff is about 900 in 2023. But then for political appointees, we had 357 in 2023. In 2025, that's the new administration. They have now.
And government spokesperson Felix Kwakye is currently addressing a press conference from the Jubilee House on these issues. It's a good time to cross over for the very latest.
To the reports of an inquiry that the president commissioned into some claims made by the Fourth Estate in a series of publications through the Media Foundation for West Africa, and at the president's request, they submitted a report on their claims. And answers were also sought from the Ministry of Roads and Highways. And a determination was made as to whether or not there was basis for any further action on the back of the claims that were made. So the report for that is ready, and I'll share that with you. So I will speak to these three issues. Now, the first issue relating to reports of the resignation of Justice A.B. Akufo. I can confirm that indeed Justice A.B. Akufo has resigned from her position as a member of the Council of State. She submitted a letter in September 2025 to the president indicating her desire to resign. She did not disclose the reason for wanting to resign. When the president received the letter, he was required then to indicate his acceptance of the resignation. But at the behest of the Council of State, he had to hold on because they said they wanted to engage Justice Akufo to see if there was some grievance that she had that was informing the resignation and whether or not there was a way that it could be addressed. So they asked the president to hold on with the acceptance. But they got back and said that they had engaged, and as far as they were concerned, the resignation could be accepted. So the president has formally accepted her resignation, and she's no longer a member of the Council of State. The law is clear on what processes to undertake to replace her, and that is going on as we speak. So in due course, a replacement will be announced for Justice Akufo. Regarding Dr. Bossman Asare, I can also confirm that he has submitted a letter to His Excellency the President indicating that effective 31st July 2026, he would resign his position as Deputy Chairperson of the Electoral Commission. He gives a reason for his resignation, which is that he wants to go back to academia and pursue his career as a staff of the University of Ghana, and conveyed his thanks and appreciation to the President and people of Ghana for giving him the opportunity to serve in that capacity. We are also aware that a second chairperson, in the person of Mr. Samuel Tete, has also gone on retirement as, I beg your pardon, a member of the Electoral Commission or a deputy chairperson. And in that regard, processes are underway. Indeed, the Council of State has already been given a nominee, which they are considering. And once that process is completed, an announcement will be made in terms of the replacement for Mr. Tete. And then in due course, a replacement will be found for Dr. Bossman Asare. So I can confirm the resignation of these two people. The second issue I want to raise has to do with the list of presidential staff. In fact, in the first quarter of this year, in compliance with the laws of Ghana, His Excellency the President presented a list of persons who work at the presidency. And the list has been published, so you are already aware of its content. There were 233 political appointees, and then 575 civil and public servants, making a total of 808. Indeed, President Mahama promised to slash down the number of political appointees and people who work at the presidency, the same way he promised to reduce the number of ministers and deputy ministers, and he's done exactly that. Now, if you compare this to the 2024 list, which incidentally President Mahama also submitted last year, even though the list was made up of people who were appointed by President Akufo-Addo, because President Akufo-Addo was not in power as of the deadline that the law gives for the list to be presented. President Mahama submitted it. There were 953 people who worked at the presidency under President Akufo-Addo in 2024, made up of 355 political appointees and 598 civil or public servants. We know that the list of people who work at the presidency had become topical, and combined with the number of ministers that existed under President Akufo-Addo, it raised significant public concern. So President Mahama vowed to reduce the numbers, and he has kept faith. In respect of ministers, currently there are 58 ministers, even though the president promised to work with 60. After the unfortunate loss of two of our colleagues, there has been no replacement. So 58 people are currently working as ministers and deputy ministers. And then currently we have 233 political appointees at the presidency and 575 civil or public servants, making it 808. Now, there have been a number of misleading claims, some in the media and some by political activists predominantly belonging to the New Patriotic Party. This morning, there were publications by Manjo Online, which sought to create the impression that President Mahama had increased the salaries of political appointees at the presidency. And therefore, they said that even though there had been a reduction in the numbers, the salaries had ballooned. We've also heard propagandists of the NPP make the same claim, even though we know that what they are saying is straightforward. They should know, because they were beneficiaries of the arrangements. We all know that when it comes to fixing the emoluments, that is the salaries and working conditions of Article 71 office holders, the law is clear, the constitution is clear, that the president must set up a committee to determine those emoluments. For the avoidance of doubt, President Mahama has not set up a committee to determine the emoluments and working conditions of Article 71 office holders. So the salaries and conditions of Article 71 office holders who are working today under President Mahama were the terms documented. All the NPP activists making those false claims no. Indeed, the law requires that when the committee finishes, the presidency must submit the recommendations made for the presidency to Parliament or the executive to Parliament for approval. And then Parliament will also have the president approve the package for MPs. That was done. So 6th January 2025, President Akufo-Addo submitted the recommendations to Parliament, which was approved. Now, because President Mahama, in compliance with the Constitution, has not set up a committee to determine the conditions of service or the salaries of people working under him, it is what we came to meet that we are taking. It is therefore illogical and blatantly false for anybody, especially members of the opposition, after having determined the conditions of service of Article 71 of office holders, to turn around and claim that President Mahama has increased the salaries and conditions of Article 71 office holders. Now, when the committee finishes its work, Article 71 office holders are clearly spelled out in the Constitution. So we know the president himself, vice president, ministers, deputy ministers, MPs, and what have you. The staff who work at the presidency They are not people who you can classify as Article 71 office holders. However, there's a long established process preceding President Mahama, which makes room for analogous determination. In other words, they are ranked as though they were Article 71 office holders in order to determine their conditions of service. This is what President Akufo-Addo did. This is what President Mills did. President Kufuor, President Rawlings, and President Mahama himself in his previous guise as president between 2013 and 2021. So once that is done, then the salaries are determined. To determine the salaries, there's what we call award point. In other words, a grading that is used. So in 2013, for instance, and I have it here, I can show it to you. In 2013, when President Mahama became president, what had been determined before he left office is clearly stated from the Chief of Staff. The Chief of Staff, for instance, for purposes of determining his conditions of service, is placed below the Speaker of Parliament and above a cabinet minister who is also an MP. That is the ranking. I am a Minister of State. I'm also an MP. So I am ranked above somebody who is a minister but not an MP. If the person is a cabinet minister and an MP, he is ranked above somebody who is a cabinet minister and not an MP. So senior presidential advisors are in terms of working conditions, are classified in the same group as cabinet ministers who are MPs. So you find that not all ministers take the same salaries. And this is a practice that has existed since we began operating this constitution. So in 2013, this document shows, for instance, that the Chief of Staff was given award point 75. Then in 2017, or at the tail end of the first term of President Mahama, he set up the Professor Dora Francisca Edubuando Emolument Committee, which determined the conditions of service for Article 71 office holders. That committee said that the Chief of Staff should move from award point 75 to 79. So this is what existed until President Akufo-Addo came to power. So when they came to power, the Chief of Staff was taking this until President Akufo-Addo set up a committee chaired by Professor Ya Ntiamwa Beidu, which determined that for Article 71 office holders, the grade point that will be analogous for determining the Chief of Staff's conditions should move from 79 to 87. This was by the Professor Ya Ntiamwa Beidu Emolument Committee report. So for 2017 to 2021, the grade point was established, based on which the salaries of people who worked at the presidency was determined. The same President Akufo-Addo formed another emoluments committee at the tail end of his administration, chaired by Dr. Mrs. Janet Ampedu-Fofi, a prominent lawyer, who also led a committee that determined that, for instance, the Chief of Staff, he should move from 87 as a grade point to 94. So since this government came to power, it is these grade points that have been used. And President Akufo-Addo, President Mahama has not determined anybody's salary because he does not have the power to do so until the committee does it. The Constitution is also clear that nobody's conditions of service can be varied downwards. So President Mahama cannot on his own say that I have reduced the grade points that is used to determine the salary as determined by the constitutionally constituted committee that looked into it. It is when President Mahama sets up a committee to look into the emoluments that the committee may make these recommendations. President Mahama has said that he doesn't believe that he should set up a committee, and that as part of the constitution review process, and indeed over this weekend, Cabinet held an extensive sitting on Friday, Saturday, Sunday to consider the Constitution Review Commission's report. We've not finished. We'll continue by the close of this month, and we will take a position on that. The President has said it publicly, and indeed it is in the committee that looked into the Constitution Amendments report that an independent emoluments committee should be set up to look at all salaries relating to all public and civil servants in Ghana so that the disparities are removed. So President Mahama has said that he's not going to continue this trend. So he has not determined anybody's salaries. So if anybody goes out there to tell you that the numbers have reduced, but the monies have gone up, and so there's no use reducing the numbers, that person is dabbling in falsehood. It is uninformed propaganda, especially that coming from MPP members. Now, what happens is this. When ministers and other Article 71 office holders are appointed and they take office, they are paid on account. Being paid on account means that your exact salary hasn't been determined, but you are paid what you came to meet pending the determination. So President Akufo-Addo's appointees who served between 2021 to 2024 and MPs, that is ministers, deputy ministers, staff in this office who are political appointees and members of parliament, what they earned from 2021 to 2024 was what was determined for those who worked between 2017 and 2021. Once the Dr. Janet Ampedufo-Fie committee finished this report and new conditions and salaries were determined, they became automatically entitled to a top-up, which is the difference between what they took and what the committee has determined. I can confirm to you that since they left office, ministers, deputy ministers, and MPs who served in the 8th Parliament have received ex-gratia payments and top-up salaries, which is the same as those serving in those capacities today have received, especially in terms of salary. I hope you understand what I'm saying. They have received top-ups. That is the difference between what they took and what the committee determined they should be paid. They have taken it. The MPs include the 137 MPP MPs who were in the 8th Parliament, some of whom were ministers and deputy ministers. There is an outstanding arrears that need to be paid to the staff who worked at the presidency, who were political appointees between 2021 and 2024. The finance ministry is working on it. Once that is paid, it will be the same in terms of salary as those that are being paid to, that the numbers have reduced but the figures have gone up. They are peddling ignorant propaganda. Some of them actually know, and yet they go out to say that you in the media are aiding that by failing or refusing to seek clarity and explanations for the documents that they present to you. And that is why it has even become necessary to address this. But for the avoidance of doubt, President Mahama has not added one CD to the salaries of his appointees at the presidency that he came to meet. And it must be placed strictly on record. So that is that. When I'm done with the general briefing, if you have any comments, questions, I can answer them. But the documents are all here, and I'm more than happy to show them to you for you to see what the truth is. Exactly the point. Now, all of you recall that sometime this year, about a month or two ago, the Fourth Estate published what they said was a report which they claimed showed abuse in the award of contracts at the Ministry of Roads and Highways. At an interaction with CSOs at the presidency earlier this year, the president asked that the Fourth Estate present the claims they are making formally to his office so that he triggers a process to look into the claims and see whether there is merit in it, which would then require further remedial action. And to the credit of the Media Foundation for West Africa, they presented their report on behalf of the Fourth Estate to the presidency. And once the president received it, he requested the senior presidential advisor on governmental affairs to do a preliminary assessment of the claims and take a response from the Ministry of Roads and Highways and look to see whether there is basis for any further action. The senior presidential advisor looked into it and has submitted her report to the president. It's a 72-page report. Now, in the interest of transparency and accountability, that report will be published. But just so that we put the matters in proper context, I am going to read to you highlights of the report and government's position on same, so that we are all clear about where things are. So the presidency received a report dated 1st April 2026 from the Media Foundation for West Africa on publications by the Fourth Estate regarding claims of abuse of the single sourcing procurement process in the award of contracts under the Big Push initiative. On April 2nd, 2026, His Excellency the President, John Mahama, referred the matter to the Senior Presidential Advisor on Governmental Affairs, Dr. Valerie Soya. The President tasked the advisor with investigating the allegations to establish their veracity and determining the appropriate course of action. The Media Foundation for West Africa report was forwarded by the Presidency to the Ministry of Roads and Highways on April 8th, 2026 for their response. The response was received at the Presidency on 21st April 2026. The final 72-page report was submitted to the President on May 22nd, 2026. In the interest of transparency and true to our commitment to accountable governance, the full 72-page report will be published by close of day tomorrow. I would, however, proceed to give a summary of the key findings in the report and government's position, which directly address the substance of the Fourth Estate's claims. Now, the first item relates to the details of the Big Push projects. Now, the title of the Fourth Estate publication was The Sole Source Factory, which was a reference to the Ministry of Roads and Highways. This description immediately conveys the impression that the predominant mode of contracting at the Ministry of Roads and Highways was through single-sourced contracts. It was imperative, therefore, that this be investigated to ascertain its veracity. Now, after a careful assessment of all the facts backed by documentary evidence, the report established that 1,441 project contracts have been awarded by the Ministry of Roads and Highways under the current John Mahama administration with the following breakdown. The Ghana Highways Authority has awarded 405 road contracts. The Department of Feeder Roads has awarded 896. There are 23 legacy projects. In other words, these are projects that this government inherited, which have been reworked for various reasons. Then there's the consolidated projects, also known as Big Push projects, which are 63 in number that have been awarded. And then there's the main Big Push projects, which number 54. Out of a total of 1,441 projects, 1,301 were awarded through open or competitive tendering. So 1,301 out of 1,441 projects were awarded through open or competitive tendering, and these were publicly advertised, and they are verifiable. The remaining 140 were awarded under the Big Push initiative. Out of the 140 Big Push projects, 66 were awarded via single source procurement method. 51 were awarded via restrictive tendering, and 23 were ongoing projects inherited from a previous government that had already been awarded on single source basis and absorbed under the Big Push initiative. The foregoing therefore reveals that 1,301 out of 1,441 contracts, representing 90.28% of road contracts under this government, were awarded through the open competitive tendering process. 90.28%. Only 4.58% of the total 1,441 road contracts awarded by the Ministry of Roads and Highways in 2025 and 2026 were awarded through the single sourcing process. 4.58%. Under the Big Push initiative, which is only one component of the total work being done by the Ministry of Roads and Highways, less than half, exactly 47.14% out of the 140 were awarded through the single sourcing process. Now, the implementing agencies of the Ministry of Roads and Highways obtained Public Procurement Authority board approval to award specific Big Push projects via single sourcing or restricted tendering. The implementing agencies for the above projects are the Ghana Highway Authority, the Department of Urban Roads, and the Department of Feeder Roads. The Ghana Highway Authority obtained approvals from the PPA board for 72 big push projects. Out of these 72 projects, 51 were procured through single sourcing and 21 through restricted tendering. The Department of Urban Roads obtained approval from the PPA board for 16 big push projects. Out of these 16 projects, 11 were procured through single sourcing and 5 through restricted tendering. The Department of Feeder Roads obtained approvals from the PPA board for 29 big push projects. Out of the 29, 4 were procured through single sourcing and 25 through restricted tendering. As indicated earlier, there were 23 legacy projects which were already awarded on single source basis by the previous government that were absorbed into the big push. Now, commitment authorization was obtained from the Ministry of Finance for 136 projects, but one project is yet to be awarded. The total number of projects awarded, therefore, is 135. At the end of the procurement stage, some projects were broken down into separate lots. These awards created 5 additional award records, thus increasing the total number of awarded projects from 135 to 140 without breaching the commitment authorization ceiling. The evidence above clearly shows that single sourcing was not the primary mechanism for General Ministry of Roads and Highways contracts, and therefore any claim that that ministry had become a sole source factory cannot be sustained on the basis of verifiable evidence. Because if only 4.something% of road projects were awarded through sole sourcing, it cannot be said that this is a ministry that predominantly does sole sourcing. Now, justification for the use of single source for 47.14% of big push contracts. The 2024 NEC manifesto and subsequent proclamations by His Excellency the President and the Minister for Roads and Highways have shown that the Big Push initiative was designed as a rapid or accelerated program to resolve severe problems with critical roads and create jobs while boosting growth. The goal clearly is to create infrastructure development at an expanded pace, not the normal pace associated with such developments. The report found that the ministry's decision to single source 47.14% of the big push contracts was informed by urgent and compelling national considerations and primarily guided by the following strategic factors. 1. Accelerated infrastructure delivery, a core vision to rapidly scale and modernize the national road network. Procurement efficiency, comparative timeline analysis indicating that alternative bidding processes would introduce significant delays, which will only serve to exacerbate the suffering of people living in communities with these routes. Public and National Security Agency heightened public outcry regarding severe road degradation, which pose direct national security vulnerabilities in critical corridors. Fiscal risk mitigation, the pressing need to hedge against market inflation and preventable project cost escalations. Given these extraordinary operational requirements, the statistical context for the program must be evaluated objectively. The single source framework was applied to 47.14% of the 140 specialized big push contracts. Crucially, this subset represents a mere 4.58% of the total 1,441 road sector contracts awarded by the Ministry of Roads and Highways. This demonstrates that competitive tendering remained the ministry's overwhelming baseline norm. Consequently, the data and basis for adopting the single source procedure refutes any claim that the Ministry of Roads and Highways acted in total disregard of the President's directive on fiscal prudence, or that it violated the executive pledge to treat single sourcing strictly as a controlled exception. The report therefore concludes that Ministry of Roads and Highways did not breach any procurement laws by using the single source procurement process prescribed in the Public Procurement Act 2003, that is Act 663, as amended. The ministry followed the procedure required by law in awarding the big push contracts, full stop. Neither did they abuse the single source than the norm. Now, the Media Foundation for West Africa, and by extension the Fourth Estate, also said that there were contradictory project figures. And the report also evaluated this claim against the information provided by the Ministry of Roads and Highways. Now, another claim contained in the Media Foundation for West Africa's report was that there were disparities in project figures they put out and the figures quoted by the ministry. The report concludes that seeming disparity may be due to a focus on the source of funding. The Ministry of Roads and Highways has various sources of funding for the infrastructure projects, including the Consolidated Fund, the Road Fund, bilateral and multilateral funds, as well as donor funding. The Big Push Fund was established by the Ministry of Finance in 2025 to provide dedicated financing for large-scale infrastructure projects. The fund's primary purpose is to accommodate the significant capital requirements of the Big Push projects, which will otherwise create a fiscal imbalance within the ministry's existing budgetary framework. Funding for the 140 Big Push projects is split between the Big Push Fund and the Consolidated Fund, focusing on infrastructure projects funded exclusively via the Big Push Fund creates an inaccurate picture of the reality on the ground. There were also claims in respect of the Dodo Pepeso in Kwanta Road. On the inconsistency of figures put out about the Dodo Pepeso in Kwanta Road, the report found that the Ministry of Finance letter dated July 11, 2025, which communicated the grant of commitment authorization for the rehabilitation of the Dodo Pepeso in Kwanta Road, which is a 46-kilometer road, indicated that the estimated cost was 684,000,000 and 1,621.50 Ghana cedis. 684 million and 1,621 Ghana cedis. That was the certified contract sum as contained in the commitment authorization for the road. A letter from the Ghana Highways Authority dated 31st December 2025 clearly stated that the estimated cost for the rehabilitation of the Dodo Pepeso in Kwanta Road was 683,902,257.69 Ghana cedis, which was lower than the amount in the commitment authorization. If the estimated cost for the road was listed or published anywhere by the Ministry of Roads and Highways as 804 million, as alleged by the Fourth Estate and the Media Foundation for West Africa, this could only have been a genuine typographical error, since the commitment authorization does not allow an amount higher than 684 million for payment for the rehabilitation of the Dodo Pepeso Nkwanta Road. The contract awarded to the contractor to construct that road clearly captures the contract sum as 683,902,957.69 million Ghana cedis. And that contract is now public knowledge. It's a matter of public record. It has been published. The contract that the ministry awarded states this as the figure. So if any other figure appears anywhere and not in the contract, this is clearly an error which cannot form the subject of any serious inquiry. Beyond a genuine error in stating the figure in the list of projects they publish, this does not raise any issue of impropriety whatsoever. The amount of money that the government of Ghana is bound to pay the contractor for the execution of that project is captured in the contract. No other figure will suffice. So it's important that we don't raise red herrings when the issues are very, very clear. Now, there's an issue involving a company called Growth 82 Global Limited. The Media Foundation for West Africa also alleged in their reports in reference to Growth 82 Global Limited and the rehabilitation of the Dodo Pepeso Nkwanta Road project that the letter W was omitted by the ministry in the word growth, making it growth to avoid public scrutiny. Again, it's important. Whilst scrutiny and anti-corruption and public accountability are extremely important and we should demand same, it's important that we don't raise red herrings. The contractor for a project cannot be hidden. When you go to the project site, the contractor has a signboard bearing his name. He is also working on the project. So every Tom, Dick and Harry knows which contractor is executing the project. So in a communication from the ministry, if they omit the letter W, It does not consider the contractor, and we do not sincerely believe that this should have formed the basis for a request for an inquiry. The omission of a letter W does not convey any impression whatsoever of any act of impropriety. And so the report found that this was a red herring and nothing more. The report finds that the letter W was indeed left out of the spelling of growth in the letter from the Ghana Highways Authority to the PPA, dated September 19, 2025, and on the ministry's website. However, while the company's name was misspelled in the initial correspondence from the Ghana Highways Authority to PPA, there was no evidence to back the allegation that this was a deliberate attempt to avoid public scrutiny. And as I've said, how can anybody hide a contractor who is visibly undertaking a road project on a route? It is not possible. Kamla, if you went to the site today, the project signboard gives you the details. So the claim that somebody omitted the letter W to avoid scrutiny is most unfortunate and amounts to a red herring at the very best. It is also unclear how a contractor awarded a contract which is being executed publicly in the full glare of all who plied that road can be concealed to avoid scrutiny. The Ministry of Roads and Highways has been advised to correct the mistake on this website and insert the letter W to reflect the correct spelling of the company's name. And this has been done subsequently. So if you went there, you will see growth clearly spelled. Unqualified contractors. Now, on the allegation that the contract for the Dodo Pepeso Nkwanta Road rehabilitation was awarded in December 2025 to a company incorporated in January 2025, which means that the contract was awarded 11 months after incorporation and that the company is not classified as an A1B1 contractor. Evidence adduced show that the company awarded the Dodo Pepeso Nkwanta Road, Messrs. Growth 82 Global Limited, is classified as an A1B1 contractor with certificate classification number 0009780. Evidence shows that the company Growth 82 Global Limited was registered on August 18, 2020, received A3B3 certificate on September 6, 2024, and received A2B2 certificate on March 19, 2025, and received A1B1 certificate on August 14, 2025. The contract in question was assigned on 31st December 2025. Commencement of works on February 12, 2026, and actual commencement on March 16, 2026. Enquiries reveal that the contractor had fully mobilized to site, completed 3 site camps on the project corridor, and had started fixing the bar sections on the corridor. The report further notes that the Dodo Pepeso Nkwanta contract was awarded through restricted tendering and not through sole sourcing. 5 companies were evaluated and 1 was selected to do the job. On allegations that documents received on 3 feeder road contracts show that some companies presented documents that ordinarily should raise eligibility issues. That is, Build Managers Limited indicated in its SNIT clearance certificate that it had only 1 worker. Sanam Ghana Limited indicated it had 4 workers. These are the allegations made by the Media Foundation for South Africa on behalf of the 4th Estate. Enquiries reveal that 1, Build Managers Limited SNIT certificate clearance listed 20 workers as of January 2025 with certificate number 2020-1157525003. Sanam Ghana Limited SNIT clearance certificate lists 25 workers as of April 2022. Certificate number 1097022. Sanam Ghana Limited SNIT clearance certificate as of April 2026. Certificate number 20140023126002 indicates that it has 26 workers. Now, value for money. The 4th Estate also raised issues of value for money and perceived inflation of contract sums on projects. On the allegation that a project like the 25-kilometer, that's Lot 3, of the dualization of the Winneba Cape Coast Road could cost as much as 154 million Ghana cedis per kilometer, the report found as follows. There were 2 lots for the Winneba Cape Coast Road. The first lot, which is 24 kilometers, has a PPA estimated cost of 1,878,011,148 Ghana cedis. The second lot, which is 25 kilometers, has a PPA estimated cost of 3,859,581,302.93 Ghana cedis. The explanation proffered for the higher cost per kilometer of the second lot is that the two projects have different scopes of work, even though they are almost the same in length. So the same length, but different scope of works. Apart from rehabilitation of the existing carriageway, construction of a new carriageway, service roads, and footbridges, the scope of the second lot further covers 3 grade separated systems, a 1,200-meter viaduct over existing alignment, and 4 long-span river bridges. This buttresses the position that road projects are not defined by length alone. So you don't just pick the length of a road and insist that the length of roads that are similar everywhere in the world should cost the same, and that if there are variations, then there's some wrongdoing. That, with the greatest respect to all, is pedestrian and does not reflect the facts. So this buttresses the position that road projects are not defined by length alone, as costs are significantly influenced by factors such as terrain conditions, pavement design, drainage and bridge requirements, utility relocation, and the overall scope and complexity of works. It has also been suggested by the Fourth Estate that the construction of Dodo Pepeso in Kwanta will cost more than the original works done and inaugurated in 2016, and that there was something untoward about this. In other words, the new contract for the Dodo Pepeso road is higher than the cost of fixing that road in 2016. And so the Fourth Estate and the Media Foundation for West Africa say that this in and of itself shows that there's some wrongdoing. It has also been suggested that the road was asphalted, and President Mahama praised the quality of work done when inaugurating the road in 2016, and that this gave credence to the claims of inflation. You see, for the avoidance of doubts, the road that was done on the Dodo Pepeso in Kwanta stretch and inaugurated in 2016 was not an asphalted road. It was a double bituminous ceiling, which to the untrained eye appeared as asphalt, but it was not asphalt. Indeed, if you go back to the reports of the inauguration and President Mahama's comments, the reason why he commended it highly was that it was not an asphalted road, but it appeared as so because of the technique that was used. The current scope of works on the road includes 1, scarification of the existing bituminous surface, new 600mm U-drain, new 6-kilometer trap drain, natural gravel sub-base, new crushed rock base, 200mm thickness, new asphaltic binder, new asphalt concrete wearing surface, and new road furniture. It is now going to be an asphalted road with all these new additions. So surely it is going to cost more than the previous one that was not asphalted. So there is no basis for the claim of inflation when all the facts are assembled. It is therefore this expanded scope of works that accounts for the higher costs. On the allegation that the 146 million Ghana cedi 9-kilometer Apeguso in Pakadan feeder road, the 35.7 million Ghana cedis is allocated. So let me take it again. On the allegation that in the 146 million Ghana cedi 9-kilometer Apeguso in Pakadan feeder road, 35.7 million is allocated for the maintenance of the feeder roads headquarters, and the same maintenance of feeder roads headquarters is allocated under 5.2 million Ghana cedis in the contract for the upgrading of Akosomo, Jekiti, Kudikope, and Yeniama to Sedon feeder roads. The report found that the original Apegusu in Pakadan road contract included a provisional sum of 30 million Ghana cedis for the maintenance of the Department of Feeder Road head office building. The original Akosomo, Jekiti, Kudikope, and Yeniama to Sodom feeder road contract included a provisional sum of 5 million Ghana cedis for the maintenance of the Department of Feeder Roads head office building. However, prior to the investigation, the Ministry of Finance had advised the Department of Feeder Roads that some of their big push contract awards exceeded approved commitment authorization limits. Consequently, all Department of Federal Roads big push contracts were reviewed and adjusted to comply with these regulatory thresholds, significantly reducing the allocations previously categorized under general items. Notably, the provisional maintenance sum for the Department of Federal Road Head Office building was reduced to 0 in the Apegusu Impakadan Road contract, while the allocation within the Akosombo Jakiti Kudukope and Yanama Sodom Federal Roads contract was reduced to 975,000 Ghana cedis. The report nevertheless emphasizes that the utilization of general items in such road contracts be strictly subject to the prior approval and direction of the Ministry of Roads and Highways. These funds are neither automatically applied nor used at the contractor's discretion. Instead, they are disbursed solely for ministry-approved priorities within the road sector. Consequently, while provision is made in the budget for general items, the Department of Federal Roads cannot assess them without explicit Ministry of Roads and Highways authorization, and every single expenditure request undergoes strict vetting processes. On the allegation that in another federal road contract, 3 cross-country vehicles and 2 pickup vehicles are to be procured, the report indicates that the allegation was not backed with any details of the actual road contract being referred to. On the allegation that even though the Media Foundation for West Africa did not have copies of the big push contracts, reliable sources at Ministry of Roads and Highways had said that amounts allocated for vehicles and other general items in the bigger contracts are totally absurd. The report indicates that the allegation was not backed with any information on who the reliable sources at the ministry are and what bigger contracts have absurd amounts allocated for vehicles and general items. On the allegation that while the data indicates different contractors have been awarded contracts through single sourcing, in multiple instances, some individuals own multiple companies that have been awarded contracts. The report indicates that the allegation was not backed with examples of contractors or contracts. On the allegation that the minister indicated that some of the contracts were put into lots to allow multiple contractors to be assigned to ensure competition and efficiency, but some of these road projects put into lots were given to the same contractors. The report indicates that the lots of the 4 projects listed in the allegation had indeed been given to 4 contractors, namely Kumasi Outer Ring Road, Lot 1, Lot 2, and Lot 3. All 3 lots were awarded to Arab Contractors Ghana Limited. Sunyani Outer Ring Road, Lot 1 and Lot 2 were awarded to Kofi Job Company Limited, and the dualization of Winneba Cape Coast Road, Lot 2 and Lot 3, both lots were awarded to MA and Constant Company Limited. Upgrading of Saboba Cheponi Road, Lot 1 and Lot 2 were awarded to Fuzak Company Limited. However, the contention that awarding multiple lots to a single contractor escalates costs, since the contractor will bill separately for general items and preliminaries, such as site camps for supervision on each lot instead of consolidating them, is flawed. This logic implies that diversifying contractors across lots will reduce expenditures. If different lots are assigned to different contractors, those independent entities will not share or subsidize each other's preliminaries and general costs. In other words, the claim is that if you break roads into different lots and award them to the same contractor, the cost will go up because their general items will not be the same. That claim is flawed, because if you give it to different contractors too, their general items will not be the same. In fact, they are even unlikely to speak to each other because they will operate separately. So that claim is completely false. It is flawed and has no basis. Consequently, the allegation that single contractor multi-lot awards artificially inflate project costs does not hold. Furthermore, awarding 2 contiguous lots to one contractor does not merge them into a single operational stretch. The contractor is legally and contractually obliged to execute works concurrently across both lots, which typically requires distinct personnel and machinery fleets. Ultimately, only contractors with proven high-tier capacity are entrusted with simultaneous multi-lot execution. Now, recommendations. After these findings, the Senior Presidential Advisor makes recommendations to further improve the processes governing the awards of government contracts. Based on the above, the report made the following recommendation to improve transparency, governance, and financial management in the award of road contracts. 1. In accordance with the Value for Money Office Act 2026, all public sector single source contracts above the determined threshold must go through the VFM office and obtain a value for money certificate above the contract before the contract is awarded. Number 2, all public sector single source contracts above the determined threshold must be submitted for cabinet approval before the contract is awarded. 3, legislation intended to tighten the discretion surrounding the award of single source contracts should be accelerated and concluded urgently by the Ministry of Finance and the Ministry of Justice and Attorney General. 4, procurement entities must, within specified time frames, publish all approved single source contracts, comprehensive financial valuations, and verified ultimate beneficial owners on a centralized open government e-procurement portal. On the Value for Money Office, the recently enacted Value for Money Office framework presents an important opportunity to strengthen pre-award scrutiny, accountability, and public confidence in Ghana's procurement system. The Act was passed on 26 March 2026 to provide technical oversight and ensure that major government expenditure and projects deliver maximum benefit for public funds, especially focusing on economy, efficiency, and effectiveness. It was assented to by President John Mahama on May 11, 2026. While the Public Procurement Authority ensures procedural and legal compliance with the Public Procurement Act, the Value for Money Office provides technical and financial scrutiny. The Value for Money Office is mandated to ensure a value for money certificate before any public sector contract above a certain monetary threshold is awarded. It will also conduct rigorous value for money assessments of government programs and projects to verify that they are economically justified. Sections 29, 2A, 31, and 32 contain provisions about monetary thresholds to be prescribed by legislative instrument or executive instrument. The monetary thresholds outlined in the interim executive instrument or legislative instrument above will be applicable to single source contract awards. The report, however, acknowledges that even though integrating the Value for Money Office Act may introduce an additional layer of administrative oversight that could decelerate the accelerated Big Push agenda, the mechanism remains vital for guaranteeing fiscal transparency. The report therefore advises that to safeguard progress, the Value for Money Office must avoid creating artificial operational bottlenecks or bureaucratic hurdles. The pre-approval process must remain exceptionally rigorous without becoming inefficient, ensuring that the primary justification for single sourcing, expedited project delivery within critical timelines, is not compromised. On legislative reform, President John Mahama, in the 2026 State of the Nation address, promised to bring legislation to Parliament to tighten procurement processes by allowing resort to single source procurement method only in exceptional circumstances. In fulfillment of this promise, the Ministry of Finance and the Ministry of Justice and Attorney General are in the process of finalizing draft legislation to curb administrative discretion, minimize vulnerabilities to abuse, and elevate competitive bidding as the default statutory mechanism. Crucially, this reform will concurrently streamline open and competitive tendering processes by eliminating systemic inefficiencies within competitive bidding. The legislation will ensure that open procurement does not cause project delays detrimental to government timelines. On cabinet approval, making cabinet approval mandatory for high-value single-source contracts introduces a critical layer of executive oversight to Ghana's public financial management. To strengthen fiscal discipline, cabinet approval should be made a mandatory prerequisite prior to the award of any single-source contracts. Contracts subject to this executive oversight must either meet the predefined financial thresholds established under the Value for Money Office Act 2026 or fall within specific limits explicitly determined by Cabinet. On publication of procurement calendars, adopting open data disclosures as a permanent systemic feature of the public procurement cycle is critical to restoring public trust. Procurement agencies must, within specified time frames, publish all approved single-source contracts, comprehensive financial valuations, and verified ultimate beneficial owners on a centralized open government e-procurement portal to dismantle any perception of patronage. Now, in conclusion, from the above analysis, the Ministry of Roads and Highways did not abuse the single-source procurement process in the award of project contracts or in the big push contracts. The ministry acted within legal provisions and bona fide boundaries regarding the big push contracts. The report, however, indicates that there seems to be a strong public aversion to single sourcing unless reserved for genuinely exceptional circumstances. Even though current legislation takes care of these sentiments by providing the exceptions when single sourcing may be applied, it will be advisable to further restrict administrative discretion in the evaluation of future single sourcing applications. Thus, even though the Ministry of Roads and Highways acted within the existing provisions of the Public Procurement Act 2003, Act 663, as amended, and obtained the necessary approvals for single sourcing, public concerns highlights the need for stronger institutional transparency, enhanced public disclosure, and proactive independent oversight mechanisms. The report recognized the transparency efforts demonstrated by the Fourth Estate and the Media Foundation for West Africa as serving as an essential role in fostering public accountability and bringing procurement data to national attention. In other words, government highly values the efforts made by the Fourth Estate and the Media Foundation for West Africa to shed light on some of these matters, to hold government to account and ensure that there is further transparency in what government does with the resources of the people. And we thank them dearly for that effort. We also acknowledge their roles in unearthing some wrongdoing, especially in the national service case and other exposés that they've been doing over the years. We hope to continue to partner them going forward to address any gaps that may exist in public accountability. The report concurrently recognized the commitment of the Ministry of Roads and Highways to executing the Big Push agenda, which reflects a clear imperative to accelerate infrastructure development, stimulate job creation, and drive economic growth. The report concludes by stating that the Public Procurement Authority Board, the Value for Money Office and Cabinet must function in tandem to ensure that accelerated national infrastructure initiatives such as the Big Push agenda are executed with optimal financial scrutiny and structural integrity. So, in the absence of any other evidence to the contrary, the President has accepted this report and wants the recommendations made for improvements in the administration of public procurement to be carried out. But beyond that, no further action is required, as the evidence that has been put forward shows. Thank you very much. If you have any question on the three issues that I've raised, I will take them now. Yes, as usual, there.
That there was a government spokesperson, Felix Kwakye-Ofosu, addressing a number of issues there, including the resignation of former Chief Justice Sophia Akufo as a member of the Council of State. He has also announced that Eric Bossman, Asare, the Deputy Electoral Commissioner, will resign from the 31st of March, and also Samuel Tete, another Electoral Commission employee, will also retire very soon. He's been making a lot of statements. We will be delving into that and more. We'll be interrogating that. We'll be speaking to experts. But now let's focus our attention on a very important matter, because this afternoon the President, John Mahama, has recorded his highest approval rating since returning to office, with 7 in 10 Guineans endorsing his performance. That is according to the latest Global Info Analytics tracking poll. The survey puts the president's approval rating at 71%, and regular tracking polls since 2020. Well, the findings also suggest growing optimism about the country's direction, living standards, and the fight against corruption, even as unemployment, the economy, and power supply remain major concerns for many citizens. Executive Director of Global Info Analytics, Musa Dankwa, is joining me here in the studio to break down the numbers and what they reveal about the national mood. Mr. Dankwa, welcome to the program. That is a very big figure for a president to enjoy such a high approval rating 17 months into his government. Give us the rundown, run us through.
Look, this survey was conducted among nearly 9,000 Ghanaians, with the majority of them, around 85%, being done in the field face-to-face across 84 constituencies in all the 16 regions. Now, what you will notice is that, first, the direction of the country. How many people are saying Ghana is now headed in the right direction? That number is now 66%. It was 65% in March, up 1% this time around. Those who say wrong direction has declined from 28 to 27%. And those who have no opinion has remained unchanged in the last period. Now, across every region, everybody says right direction, except in Ashanti region, where a slim majority said wrong direction, 47, and right direction, 46%. And in the northern region, 48 are saying wrong direction, and 47 are saying right direction. Now, if you go to the key stuff, standard of living, in this country, how people perceive the standard of living affects the way they see the president and the government. Has it gotten worse? What is the situation like? In today's poll, 57% of Ghanaians say that their standard of living has improved compared to last year. That number is slightly down 1% with the margin of error, so virtually the same. Those who say it has worsened, normally if it's getting bad, this tends to anger people and rate you low. That number has remained unchanged as well. And those who say it is unchanged also has remained unchanged, 23. And those who say they have no opinion, slightly up by 1%. Now, again, across the entire country, most regions say it has improved, except I think Ashanti region, but slight majority say that it's gotten worse. Now, if you look at the question of improvement in the future, are you optimistic things will improve in the future? If this data trends downward, it means people are getting worried, and that may reflect in the approval rating or disapproval rating. Here, 68% are saying that they believe things will get better in the next 12 months. That number was 68 last time, so no change. Then you look at those who are saying, no, it will get worse. 22% was saying that in March, now 21%. And those who have no opinion climbed from 10% to 1%. So barely no movement in that period. Now, when it comes to corruption perception state, do you believe that corruption in today's terms is improving, or is worse, or unchanged? Lower, 54% now say it is improved. Before it was 56. And the worsen was 18, now 21. Unchanged, 21, now 20. So all these data kind of points to a stable polling number, which means that the president may be more popular than this data. So they may have an issue with a certain aspect of governance, but it doesn't affect them in the way they rate him.
That's quite interesting. It's quite interesting because you say that the outlier here is the Ashanti region.
Yes.
They seem to be on the fence. They seem to be the outlier here. But which region gives him the highest approval rating?
Now, if you look at approval rating, highest comes from Savannah, his whole own region of Savannah. Okay. Savannah. Savannah is 86% in Savannah. Then you have 82% in Western North. And 74% in OT, 73 in Greater Accra, 71 in Eastern region, 70 in Ashanti Central region, 74 in Bono East. Even Bono is 80%. In the Ashanti region, 55% approve. Majority in Ashanti region still approve him, compared to others who disapprove him. So you could see a broad support in terms of approval rating, which is slightly different from those who say right or wrong direction, because they see the president different from the direction of the country.
So I'm looking at the approval, and the first one is a half read, right?
40% approve and 27 disapprove, and 33 no opinion.
Let's go through the rest of the...
Then you have in Bono, 80% approve, 16 disapprove. In Bono East, 74% approve, 16 disapprove. In Central region, 70% approve and 25 disapprove. In the Eastern region, remember this is also MPP stronghold, it used to be. Now it is 71 approve and 16% disapprove. In the Greater Accra, it's 73% approve and 25 disapprove. In the Northeast, it is 52 approve and 27 disapprove. Baumia won the Northeast region in the last election. In the Northern region, approval is 57, disapproval 35. Oti region, 74% say they approve and 20% disapprove. In the Savannah region, 86 approve and 12% disapprove. In the Upper East, it's 63 approve and 26 disapprove. In the Upper West, 73 approve and 21 disapprove. In the Volta region, 76 approve, 12 disapprove. And Western region, 75 approve, 17% disapprove. And Western North, 82% approve and 17% disapprove. You could see that he is much popular. But if you go to the direction of the country, you could see the regions differ in terms of the way they say right or wrong, which means that he's performing above the direction of the country. Usually, when people say right direction, they tend to favor the president. Here, they are saying right direction, but he's moving much above that direction of the country in terms of his personal approval rating.
Interesting. And what reasons did they give for his approval rating? What impressed them the most?
Look, we don't ask them your reason for approving or disapproving him, but we can glean that from some of this data. Let's say areas of government performance that people think is not doing well. If you go there, there are key things that determine people's feeling in the country. One is the city's currency stability. Only 4% said they're not doing well there. So it means they're performing on stability of the currency. Performing on cost of living. When people are sad and angry, they are driven by cost of living and stability of the currency. Now that's appeared to have been addressed. On unemployment, it is a big issue in the poll. It's a worrying, it's been there for long, it has to be addressed one way or the other. But they believe you can't tackle it in a single day. Economy broadly, people are also complaining broadly about the economy in general, but they're not as concerned as before. And then the doomsday, which is an issue that is being dealt with currently. So some of these are temporary issues that may go away and that will not necessarily affect the next rating that you may have. Oral, it's been a concern for them. Oral is something that they think the government is not doing well on it. Would that affect the way they approve him? Sometimes no, sometimes yes. Galamsey fight. Some people are saying, no, it's not doing well. So on top 5 issues, you have employment, economy, doomsday, oral, Galamsey, and 24-hour economy being the top 6 issues people are concerned about or saying that the government is not doing very well.
It's not quite surprising to see those issues being the top. Let's look at the gender distribution. In terms of gender distribution, how do they perceive the president?
No, we didn't analyze that in this report, even though we have it. We didn't go into the gender response. But what we have done is, in some cases, we look at the approval by party affiliation. For example, let me just try and get that to you. Okay, so approval by party affiliation, among MPP voters. 37% approve of his performance, 54% disapprove. Among the NDC, 61, I think it's 91% approve and 6% disapprove. Among floating voters, it's 65% approve and 22% disapprove. United Party or UP, 61 or 64 approve, 27 disapprove. GCPP. So here you can see all the political parties approve of his performance except MPP.
Not surprising there. No. Looking at these figures, do you think these are the highest approval rating for a government who has been in office for a year and a half since you started polling?
Yes. From us, since 2020, when we did the first tracking poll, we've never hit that number approval at any point in time. There may be some snapshot that is not tracking, that you may have maybe 80%. Those are not really tracking poll. But this is the first time we've seen a tracking poll, 84 constituencies, that anybody has hit 71%.
What more do we have to know from your latest polling?
Look, we have an interesting aspect as well in terms of corruption perception index. We ask people, which public institution do you see or perceive to be corrupt or least corrupt? The top institutions that are seen to be corrupt still remain the Ghana Police, 6.45%, followed by the Ghana Immigration Service, 5.6%, and we have business executives being 5.4%. 4.5%.
Okay, so Musa, I want you to go back for me. So does it mean that the lower you are on the chart, the most corrupt you are?
The lower your score.
The lower your score. So the higher your score, the most corrupt you are.
Yes. So the lowest score comes from ministers to government officials. 4.54. Presidency, 4.84. The military, I think it was 4.6 or so.
Right.
And then religious leaders are also 4. So these are the lower you go from here, you see that the scores get higher and higher. We were the most corrupt.
That's quite interesting to have the Ghana Police Service. We also have business executives, judiciary, immigration officers being the most corrupt per your latest survey. That is quite interesting. Let's go to the next slide.
Now, what we also have to bear in mind is that you may have remained at the top of the ranking, but your score is improving. The Ghana Police Service before were 6.68. Now 6.45. So they are improving, even though they are on top. If you look at the Ghana Immigration Service, they were 5.81. Now it's 5.6. They are improving. So if this continues to improve, it means general perception of corruption among those institutions may improve over time.
The last one that I want us to look at before we go, Musa, is party affiliation. I see that the party affiliation dynamics look quite interesting. If you can quickly run us through it. There it is.
Here we are.
Yes.
On the average, randomly sampled people on the street of Ghana today. If you speak to 100 people on the street, 47 of them will openly say they are NDC. That number was 45% in the last poll. It's gone up by 2% in June. In May, openly saying they are MPP was 25% in March. Today, it is 26%. This is the first time we've seen this number rise up since the election. So we've seen some recovery for the MPP June this time around. Those who say they are floating voters, they've declined from 17% to 16%. And those who support the other parties remain flat. However, those who don't disclose their party affiliation has gone down. So they may have gone from not disclosing and disclosing for NDC and going to MPP.
Interesting figures there. Musa Dankwa, thank you very much for bringing us your expertise this afternoon. He's the Executive Director of Global Info Analytics. Let's take you back to our earlier story where the government spokesperson, Felix Kwakye-Ofosu, addressed a number of issues and bringing the spokesperson for Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, Dennis Miracles Abuaje. We also have on the line Kay Kujo, who is a civil writer and associate at Imani Africa. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. Dennis, I want to begin with you. I want to pick your reaction to some of the key responses the government spokesperson has been given. One of them, though, is the fact that he maintains that contrary to what some opposition members are saying, there has not been any increment in the salaries of presidential staffers. In fact, he says that the last increment was done by President Akufo-Addo on the 6th of January 2025. So the amount that they are taking was approved by former President Akufo-Addo. Let me pick your initial reaction quickly on that. Do I have you? Right, Dennis Miracles Abuaje speaks for the MPP flag bearer, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. He's joining the conversation right now. We're talking about the press conference that was held minutes ago by government spokesperson and communications minister Felix Kwakye-Ofosu there. Dennis, do I have you? Hello, Dennis. Right, we're still working the lines to get Dennis Miracles Abuaje to join the conversation, but let's bring in Kay Kujo now. He is with Imani Africa. Mr. Kujo, welcome to the program. You've been listening to the government spokesperson Felix Kwakye-Ofosu defend some of these things, including the report that Joy News brought that we have seen 148% increment in the monies paid to government appointees at the Jubilee House. Before I bring you in, Mr. Kujo, I understand we have established connection with Dennis Miracles Abuaje right now. He speaks for MPP flag bearer Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. Dennis, welcome to the program. The government spokesperson Felix Kwakye-Ofosu has been defending a lot of claims that have been put out he says, by the minority, and of course by Joy News research as well. I want to pick your initial reaction to the defense that the staffers at the presidency have not had their salaries increased. In fact, he says that the last salary increment was done by President Akufo-Addo on the 6th of January 2025. So it cannot be true that President John Mahama has increased the salaries of workers at the Jubilee House. I want to pick your thought on that.
And I mean, this afternoon, Felix has peddled a lot of falsehood and misapplication of the facts. I think he's deliberately attempted to mislead the public and hide the substance of the conversation. And it's important that we take it slowly for people to understand. Kenneth, listen, why are we having this conversation? We're having this conversation because Felix and his government in opposition said that Nana Danko Akufo-Addo, that was the government then, had a bloated government which was a burden onto the public purse. Then they made a very solemn pledge to the people that when they come to office, they would make sure they run a lean government, which would be less burdensome to the Ghanaian taxpayer. Ken, is that the case? That is basically where the debate has been on, right?
Right.
Now, you come to office, and then it is realized that the amount of money that is being spent, the cost of the government that you claim is going to be lean and less burdensome on the Ghanaian taxpayer is almost double of what you are criticizing. That is the crux of the matter. Now, the NDC government's deflection in all of these is that, we have reduced the number of ministers. And Ken, I want you to really give me some time so we go through this and digest it once and for all. We have reduced the number of ministers. And so the nominal headcount of reducing ministers from, let's say, 100 to 50 is evident that we have reduced the cost. It's evident that we are running in government and so platform. And that is where Felix is trapped in his own way. That is where the bull is caught by it, and I explain to you why. Having 1,000 ministers, let me give you the realistic numbers. If the NDC government was to have 100 and how many MPs do you have in Parliament? 187 or whatever members of Parliament they have. If they should even make all of them ministers, and they run on the principle that the Akufo-Addo government ran, it would be zero burden on the Ghanaian taxpayer. And I explain to you before I come to the other issue. And Ken, I want you to follow me. You know Honorable Kandapa was defense minister for a very long time.
Yes.
And you know Honorable Kandapa was not a member of Parliament.
Yes.
I mean, he was National Security Minister, and he wasn't a member of Parliament, right? You know Honorable Esiama, the then Transport Minister, was not a member of Parliament. Now, these ministers, who are cabinet ministers, but were not members of Parliament, they are the ones who are drawing on salary under Office of Government Machinery under the Akufo-Addo government. Now, let me take somebody like Honorable Kojo Oponkroma and Honorable Dominic Nitu. Dominic was defense minister, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
But Dominic was member of Parliament for the people of Bimbela. I can tell you for a fact and put it on record. Call Felix and let him give you contrary evidence. Dominic Nitu never received any salary throughout his entire tenure as minister from the Republic of Ghana, other than his salary as a member of Parliament. Zero. Indeed, let me even draw your attention to an interesting statistic. Kandapa, who was National Security Minister and was drawing his salary directly from Office of Government Machinery, was earning more in terms of salary as the minister who is drawing from Office of Government Machinery than Dominic Nitu, who was drawing on a legislature salary as a member of Parliament. And these are details of the fact that we have not been able to get people to really appreciate that Akufo-Addo may have had even 200 ministers. As long as 190 of them are members of Parliament,
there was no cost burden in terms of compensation and salary to the Ghanaian taxpayer. Let's put that on the record. And I can challenge Felix or anybody in government to bring counter-proof. That is what it is. Now, Felix also peddled a certain falsehood this afternoon that, MPs, ministers have received top-up salary. That is absolute falsehood. In fact, let me explain something to you. You remember the double salary saga?
I do.
Great. The double salary saga came about as a result of this model in government, where, let's say, Honorable Haruna Idrisu, Minister of State, at the same time Member of Parliament. What brought about the double salary saga was that before Akufo-Addo came, the MPs who were also ministers will draw on salary as MP and go under Office of Government Machinery budget to draw what they call top-up salary. So when the person is a minister, at the end of the month, he receives top-up salary from the Office of Government Machinery and receives salary from the legislature, which is Parliament. Under the Mahama #1, what brought about the double salary was that all the MPs who were ministers were drawing on full salary under Office of Government Machinery and at the same time taking full salary as members of Parliament, which is a crime. Because in this country, one person cannot be drawing double salaries under the laws of the country from the Republic. Now, the convention was that you would take the full salary from Parliament as an MP, and then you go and take a top-up as a minister from Office of Government. But under Akufo-Addo, I am telling you today, on record, that all MPs who were ministers received no other salary from Office of Government Machinery other than the salary that they got under Parliament.
Dennis.
Hold on, Ken. At some point, a cabinet minister like Kandapa would earn more than an MP and Minister for Defense, Dominic Netiwu. Now let's come down to the substantive matter of the compensation. I don't know what Felix is even talking about. Ken, you were complaining about 153 million that the NPP government was paying as compensation, which you felt was too large for the taxpayer. Today, 2026, your compensation bill is about 248 billion. And your explanation is that you did not set it, and that a certain emolument committee set it, and so it is not your fault. Then you come on the other side and tell the people that, but we have reduced the number of ministers. I've just explained to you that reducing the number of ministers does not, or increasing the number of ministers, as long as they are MP, does not bring any burden to the taxpayer in terms of compensation. In the current scenario, you have reduced the number of ministers, which is true, but you are spending more on the left government half than the previous government, whether you like it or not. You are spending 248 billion. When the previous government that you claim was spending too much, spent 153. So what exactly is Felix defending?
Right, Dennis, I need some clarity here. I'll give you time. I need some clarity here. Did you say that during President Akufo-Addo's time, MPs who doubled as ministers took only salaries as MPs and didn't draw salaries as ministers? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
They were paid because I know, and Felix explained that is the same that is happening under this administration, that if you double as an MP and a minister, you take one salary, but your salary is a bit higher than one person who is an MP. But you were saying that it wasn't the case during Akufo-Addo's time, and that they were only drawing MP salaries, though they were cabinet ministers.
In fact, the cabinet ministers who were not MPs were earning more than MPs who even double as ministers. You can check it later. So let's even stand now and work with Felix's logic. If you are telling the country that your MPs who are ministers are not paid anything extra, then why then do you tell us to praise you and clap for you for reducing the number of ministers? When indeed, if you appoint them from Parliament, it really doesn't add any extra compensation bill to the country. Now, let's come to the main subject matter on the compensation cost under this government. Kenneth, I gave you two documents.
Yes.
If you have time, you can share them.
Right.
I've given you the 2024 appropriation bill, and I've given you the 2026 appropriation bill. Look at the two figures. About 158 million Ghana cedis under the Akufo-Addo government. And then you have what? 248 million Ghana cedis. Under the so-called we have reduced appointments. That is very ironic. So what exactly is Felix disputing? Is Felix saying that the 248 million is not correct? Is that what he's saying? Did he say that?
Not that I heard of.
Because if you are not saying that, and you are admitting that it is costing you 248 million to run your government, then really, what are you debating now? Because it cost the previous government 158 million, and it's costing you 248 million. So what exactly are you calling out? Are you calling out Joy News for? Joy News have only put out the fact 153 million in 2024 at the Akufo-Addo, which you criticized and said that when you come, you cut that cost. Today, you are spending 248 million. What is Felix explaining away? You have failed to fulfill that simple, singular promise, which is within your purview, by simply ensuring that to the Ghanaian taxpayer, your government is spending less than was spent by the previous government. It is a bare-faced failure. What exactly is he defending? If you can help us.
Right. I'm going through that document that we projected on our screen a while ago, but it has here that goods and services under Akufo-Addo's government was in excess of 900 million Ghana cedis, and goods and services here is 749 million Ghana cedis.
Are we done with the compensation? Are we done? They are talking about two different things. If we are done with the compensation, then we can go to that one. Are we done? As for compensation, remember, compensation budget, you can't reduce or increase it. You will pay the people. You can't come to them midway and say, oh, I won't pay you. You will pay them. It's static. Remember, goods and services, you may not necessarily have to buy the A4 sheet you budgeted for.
Okay.
So that's a budget. You may not necessarily expend it, but compensation, you would expend it. That is why I'm asking you, are we clear that this government has failed this republic when it comes to that simple promise of cutting costs in terms of running government, and that they are running almost double of how much they criticized in the past government? It's important that we stay in that context and finish that conversation first.
So your point is, despite them cutting down the head count, the amount spent has ballooned.
But Kenneth, does it make sense for you to come and tell me? Let me give you a quick example. Adom TV has 1,000 employees. Joy News has 500 employees. Adom TV, for their 1,000 employees, they are spending 10,000 Ghana cedis. Joy News, for their 500 employees, are spending 20,000 Ghana cedis. But Joy News will go and tell Kwesi Chum that they are running a smaller staff, and that they are running a much more efficient, cheaper staff. Does it make sense? Does it make sense to you? That the previous government that you criticize had more staff, but we're spending just 153 million. You have less, and you are spending 248 million. And you say we should clap for you for what? We should lash you for deceiving the people and betraying the people. Because for the taxpayer, it is not about the head count. It is about the cost to their pocket. Because what would the taxpayer care about if you are getting 1 million people work for you for free? If 1 million people are working for you, you appoint 1 million people, and they work for you for free, would the taxpayer be concerned about that? Surely not. So if you come and you reduce appointment by 100 appointees, but you are spending 100 million more than the previous government, you deserve to be last. Rather, you don't even, you have a lot of gas to even be talking about this, because it's a complete betrayal of the people of this country. You love the people, misled the people when you're in opposition, only for you to come to government and come and otherwise. That is what we are talking about. And we are not going to allow Felix to talk this away and explain this away. He has no explanation. The numbers are there. And the numbers are doing the talking.
So, Dennis, what would you rather this government did?
You see, the point is this. You see, when you are trapped by your own words, nobody should advise you what you should do. Ken, I told you before, when you go and pick Akufo-Addo's number of ministers, there were more than this government's number of ministers. But Akufo-Addo's ministers had almost about 80 to 90% of them from parliament. You understand what I'm saying? 80 to 90% of them from parliament. And in terms of compensation, under Akufo-Addo, any MP who is a minister was not paid any extra money. So it was no burden to the taxpayer. I would always prefer a president that can decentralize the responsibilities in this manner without it burdening the taxpayer than a president that will lie, that they will do some extraordinary things and come and spend more. That is what we are talking about. The difference between the MPP is that we're able to get more people to work for 153 million, and the NDC are using less people to work with 248 million. That is like a Kwashiorkor government. You know what Kwashiorkor is? The child that has a very lean body, a very small body, but has a very bulky stomach. He's very small, but he has a big taste. That is what this government is. A Kwashiorkor government. Small in size, big in taste. That betrayal cannot be allowed to be explained away.
Dennis Miracles Abwaja, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. He speaks for MPP flag bearer, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. Let's bring in K. Kujo from Imani Africa. Mr. Kujo, welcome to the program. What is your assessment so far of the explanations given by government spokesperson on these key issues? Let's start with the monies that are being paid to presidential staffers. He says that those amounts were not set by this president, but by the previous president. And he has explained that, in fact, in nominal terms, the headcount, you've seen a reduction of the number of persons employed at the Jubilee House compared to the previous administration. Hello, okay, Kujo, do I have you?
Yes, hi. Yes, you have me right on here.
Right.
Good evening or good afternoon to our listeners and viewers. I think Joy News raised a very important national interest question. If you look at the analysis report, compensation allocations of approximately 100 million Ghana cedis in 2025 and 248 million Ghana cedis in 2026, which was definitely going to lead to an increase of about 148%.
Right.
You know, that is correct.
Yes.
And I think as a national interest question, it has allowed further conversations and forced the presidency to respond accordingly. But the critical question here is the increase proves one thing. You know, compensation increased, and what it does not automatically prove is equally important. It does not prove more staff or more appointees or a larger presidency. It does not prove waste or inefficiency or deception, because if we should look at how this conversation started in the first place, I think the debate combined three separate issues and treated them as one. It combined staffing, compensation, and value for money. And they are related, but they are not the same thing. It's important to get that right. These three things are related, but are not the same thing. So a rise in compensation does not automatically mean a rise in staffing.
Right.
And it's the same way a reduction in staffing would not mean lower expenditure. But neither of them settles the value for money debate. And the staffing records are there. It shows that personnel attached to the presidency increased from 678 under Mahama in 2013 to 998 under Akufo-Addo in 2017 and 1,048 in 2022. So if we look at the current figure reported under Mahama, it sits at 808. That's 808. And that means that the current presidency has 190 fewer personnel than Akufo-Addo's 2017 presidency and 240 fewer than Akufo-Addo's 2022 presidency. You know, this is an official record.
Right.
If we come to the political appointees, the same record shows that political appointees fell from 361 under Akufo-Addo in 2022 to 233 under Mahama in 2025. That is a reduction of 128 political appointees. And if we look at the presidential staffers, the debate on presidential staffers, I think that the public debate often confuses presidential staffers with total personnel. But the official records show that presidential staffers stood at 9 under Mahama in 2013, 27 under Akufo-Addo in 2017, and 44 under Akufo-Addo in 2022, and 39 under Mahama in 2025. Even on the narrow staffer category, the current figure remains below the 2022 figure. So the first myth is a major understanding in this debate, which is the assumption that 808 personnel means 808 presidential staffers is incorrect. The presidency includes presidential staffers, political appointees, civil servants, attached public officers, administrative staff, and household staff. So if we look at the 808 figure, it refers to the total personnel attached to the presidency. And I think that definition really matters.
Do I get the impression, sorry to catch you, do I get the impression that you are challenging the figures put out by Dennis Miracles Abuaji this afternoon?
Well, I mean, alleged does not lie. These are public figures.
Right.
And I think he's not arguing against the figures. He's arguing against the conversation, which is the expenditure on compensation that the government has spoken to. These are figures that are accessible, and these are figures he can't refute. So to continue, let's look at the OGM record. That's the Office of Government Machinery record. You know, if we look at the OGM expenditure, it rose from 1.56 billion in 2017 to 1.9 billion in 2018, and then another 1.988 billion in 2019, and a peak of 4.3 billion in 2020. 2020 was the COVID year. Let's not forget. And you know, I think 2020 was also the year where Free SHS, which was a special initiative, was carried out. So usually when such things occur, it's expected to balloon, just so that it's not misconstrued.
Right.
So it remained at 2.49 billion in 2021 and 3.13 billion in 2022. And 2.07 billion in 2024. So if we look at the current OGM allocations, they are approximately 1.126 billion in 2025 and 1.453 billion in 2026. So any argument about expensive government must explain the entire expenditure history, not only selected years. If we subject it to an outcome test, you know, I think governments are ultimately judged by outcomes. So we may speak all of these figures, but the outcome is important. It is not limited to headcount compensation or budget allocations.
Okay.
But if we look at the broader record, it shows that inflation peaked at 54.1% during the Akufo-Addo administration. And debt restructuring became necessary. If you quite remember the IMF program, which became necessary. And if you also quite remember, during the same period, Ghana experienced severe macroeconomic instability.
Right.
Today, we have inflation sitting at around 3.1 to 3.8%, and fiscal balances have improved. If you remember, the IMF program, which is approaching completion, and there's also macroeconomic stability.
Right.
So these outcomes matter because citizens experience outcomes, not just budget lines.
Okay.
But what Joy FM's compensation story does not change is the fact that 808 personnel, 233 political appointees, and 39 presidential staffers. It does not change the fact that personnel levels remain below the 2017
right.
and 2022 figures.
Okay.
Then we subject it to the value for money test as well. You know, it cannot be measured through a single budget line.
Right.
So a proper assessment must include and consider staffing, political appointments, compensation, OGM expenditure, inflation, debt sustainability, you name it. You know, anything less is incomplete.
Right. Okay.
But if we look at the response from government, which has allowed us to better appreciate and understand the issues. Of course, when a government spokesperson comes out to say something, it is not absolute. It requires forensic scrutiny. We have to scrutinize the things he has said and then measure it with the facts available. I think Miracle shared some documents after the show, definitely. Some of us will peruse those documents and then probably use it as a benchmark against what the spokesperson said. But I think what is clear is that the increase does not automatically prove a larger presidency.
Okay, Kujo.
From what the minister said.
Right. I want to thank you very much for your time this evening. K. Kujo is with Imani Africa. Haruna Mohammed is the Deputy General Secretary of the Opposition NPP. Haruna, we have just about 2 minutes to wrap up this conversation, but briefly, I want to pick your thought on the plethora of issues that were addressed by the government spokesperson, Felix Kwakye Ofosu. In 2 minutes, what are your thoughts? What are the thoughts of the leading opposition party in Ghana?
Thank you very much, Kenneth. I believe that the status of the government has not changed. Dishonesty has been playing all along. What the government spokesperson have said is continuously to look in the face of the people of Ghana and speak of dishonesty. The data is there as is presented by Miracles. We are speaking to the data, and that is why the NDC is afraid. They are very much afraid when it comes to data. I've also listened about outcomes and all that. You see, when we are measuring outcomes, I'm surprised that the person who has just finished speaking was rather talking about outcomes and talking that nothing really has changed. They can measure that the number of ministers or number of staffers have reduced here and there. These are outputs. They are not outcomes. The outcomes are, if you have 120 and now you have 80, what is the implication on the purse of the people of Ghana? The output is that there has been a number of reduction of the people in terms of the work compensation. But what is the outcome? What is the outcome? If you are paying 3 million for the 120 and you are paying 4 million for the 80, then it doesn't make any sense. There is the outcome there has a very bad negative impact on the people of Ghana. So it is very clear, when you are measuring outcomes, you must focus on the outcomes. You must focus on the impact. So the outcome is very bad. Whether budget or appropriation is very bad. You cannot go and manage a huge number of people with a certain cost element and come and manage the number of people who are very less with a high cost element. The Ghanaian people are very much focused on the cost, not on the number of people. If Ghanaian people were so much interested on the number of people, they would have said so. But Ghanaian people are very much focused on the cost. And we are telling the good people of Ghana, we are not lying. We are speaking to the record. If you pick the budgets and pick the appropriation, as has been put by Felix, has been put by Miracle, you would see that what Felix have said is in contrary, sharp contrary with the truth. And that is why we continue to say so. because you cannot, under Akufo-Addo, with a budget of 326,907,847, that is on government, Office of Government, government machinery. And then somebody goes to spend about 2.7 million. Go and put it inside. Go and check that and see whether it commensurates with the number of people that is working there. So let us be very truthful. I think that this government is not ready to work on the standard of living of the people. They are talking about interest rates, or they are talking about exchange rates.
Right.
Kenneth, ourselves, how much was transportation from Tamale to Accra? From Tamale to Accra was somewhere 210 Ghana cedis when we were leaving office. Today, how much is it? It's 360 Ghana cedis. At the time we were leaving office, what was the exchange rate? It was somewhere around 14, right? So if the exchange rate was around 14, today it's around 11. I was paying 210 Ghana cedis to transport myself from Tamale to Accra.
Okay.
And today the exchange rate is down. Today it's 350. You are telling me that the cost of living has come down because there is a reduction in exchange rate. That is not true. Again, I live in Accra. We pay rent. You tell yourself, ask yourself, how much rent do you pay as compared to the last 3 years when Akufo-Addo was the president? So nothing really have changed. Things has rather worsened. We have gone to the west, and these people are not honest enough to even apologize to the good people of Ghana. But they continue to speak and talk to us as if we are children. I think that we need an apology from the president.
Haruna Mohammed, grateful for your time this evening. He's the Deputy General Secretary of the opposition MPP. Away from that, across Ghana, many trained female teachers remain unemployed despite growing opportunities in the digital economy. To help bridge that gap, the women educators in internet and technology, known as WATEC, is equipping women with digital literacy, artificial intelligence, educational technology, and entrepreneurial skills to prepare them for new careers beyond the traditional classroom. Implemented by Dream Oval Foundation with support from the Internet Society Foundation, the program has so far trained more than 180 women through mentorship, practical learning, and placements within Ghana's edutech ecosystem. Their journeys and innovations will take center stage at the upcoming WATEC convention and exhibition themed She Taught, She Learned, She Led, celebrating women educators who went beyond the classroom. Well, to tell us more about the program and the impact it is having on the lives of participants, I've been joined in the studio by Karen Bichem, who is the program's lead at Dream Oval Foundation, and Deborah Dankwa, who is a tech participant. Ladies, grateful for your time this evening. I want to begin with you, Karen. Tell us a bit more about WATEC and why anybody should be a part of it.
Okay. So WATEC. Okay.
Karen, go on.
So WATEC, as you've mentioned, it's a digital literacy program targeting women educators in Ghana. So we recognize that within the period where female educators graduate, whilst waiting to be placed in their educational institutions, we realize that there's a gap, in digital literacy skills, especially with women, because as Dream Oval Foundation, we run other programs, and we've observed that usually when it comes to ICT-related programs, science, technology, mathematics, you always find the men being more than the women. And so in our observations, to help bridge that gap and to provide other sources of income generation for female educators, this program was instituted with the support from the Internet Society Foundation.
Why should anybody be part of this, Deborah?
Because it gives you skills as an educator. It gives you skills relating to technology, and then you are able to apply these technology skills outside of the classroom. So women all around Ghana would have a great opportunity if they take part in this course.
I want you to tell us what was the motivation behind the introduction of this particular program? Okay.
So as I mentioned, based on our experience organizing digital training program for teachers in Ghana, we observed that usually with such programs, you find male participation being significantly higher than women. We also observed that during periods, we find that when the teachers are done with their education in the colleges, they have to wait for long periods of time before they end up being employed. And so to create an avenue where they themselves can start other educational programs by themselves by doing online educational content for students, parents, for even schools to be able to access. That's the reason why this program was instituted. And the main focus was to train them in digital literacy, educational technology. They went through programs around online presence, entrepreneurship, specialized transitional tools for teachers, yes. So these are some of the courses that they did during the program.
There are familiar programs like this with women told or projected as leading these projects. What makes this one different from the rest? Deborah?
So it's very practical. When I joined the program, I thought I was just going to join another online course and it would be very theoretical. But at the end of every learning module, we have a project to do, and then we apply all the skills that we learned during the module. So it really gives you that confidence in what you've studied, and then you know that it's something you can actually apply. I think that's what makes the difference.
To add on to what Deborah said, to also make the experience more practical as well, we partnered with tech organizations to absorb some of the ladies that were going through the training, and so they were able to bridge the gap between seeing how the EdTech solutions are deployed within classroom setting and then the educational context.
How many women have benefited so far?
So, as mentioned, we have over 1,000 people who registered to join the program. About over 150 of them participated, but those who are graduating at the end of the program are 100 women who have gone through 3 different cohorts. We have 49 from cohort 1, 15 in cohort 2, and then 36 from cohort 1. So together we have 100 of them.
What should we expect from the convocation and the exhibition? Deborah, would you want to answer that?
Okay, so most of my colleagues would be exhibiting what we did for our capstone project. Yeah, so you could expect very wonderful projects that are solving problems in education, in the classroom. Yeah.
Someone will be home watching at the office, in their car, wherever, and they'll be asking, why is this even so important? What makes it so important, Karen?
Yeah, so I think for everyone interested in where education is going in this country, should be interested in this program. It cuts across. For the EdTechs, you get to meet women educators who have digital skills, who have digital knowledge and can support you with industry knowledge in your organizations. For parents, you get to see projects and innovations that can help your children better their educational learning outcomes. For the general public, you get to see some of these solutions being exhibited right at the place, and these are solutions that the ladies themselves have come up with based on problems they have recognized within the educational environment, and they're coming up with solutions to these problems.
Deborah, you were a participant. At what point did you decide that you wanted to be part of this, and how transformed have your life been since you did?
Okay, so I used to teach, and then I decided I wanted to transition into educational technology. So around that same time too, that's when I found the advertisements for the course. And looking at the description of the course that's about educational technology, you'd get the opportunity to understudy an EdTech. I thought it was a good opportunity. So when I joined, I was not disappointed. And that's why I decided to join, to get more skills related to EdTech.
And now that you've gotten those skills, would you say this has transformed your life? And if yes, how?
It has, because I've been able to work on a software, like develop a software that I'll be exhibiting on Wednesday.
Okay, I'm interested in that. Tell us about it. What's that software? What does it do?
Okay, so the problem was students, when they are revising, usually for math and science, it's easy for them because they have ready answers, because those subjects are very objective. Math has ready answers, science does. And even for English language, the objectives have ready answers. But when you come to the part where you write an essay, students have to wait for a long time to get feedback from their teachers. Just in case you are practicing at 2 a.m., there's no teacher to give you feedback. So I developed an application that allows students to, you put in the question, you add your answer, and then the application will grade it for you. And it doesn't just give you general feedback, but it's giving you feedback based on your curriculum. So the GES curriculum will look at mechanical accuracy, composition, organization, expression, and that's the same way that the application would also grade it for you. So you get a better understanding of what you have to do better, and then what you can keep on improving.
Wow, that's great. Can't wait to see that exhibition, Karen. So if there's a woman out there who is torn between joining you and doing something else, what would you tell them?
Being part of this program gives you very relevant skills that you need. Considering how the educational sector is shifting nowadays, everything is going into technology based, everything is going to AI based. This program gives you the opportunity to build these relevant skills. You also get the opportunity to have other sources of income, so that even if you haven't yet been placed in the school, you can create your own online content. You can get you get relevant entrepreneurship skills, or you can set up your little edtech business that you can run separately, even as you wait to have that. And then it also improves your classroom, the learning experience within the classroom, because some of the ladies who have participated are using what they have learned within their classroom settings, and then it's improving the outcomes of the relationship they are having with their students.
Where is the exhibition happening?
So it's happening at Asare Hall at 10 a.m. on Wednesday, 17th June. The exhibition is for 2 hours, so if you miss the exhibition, you don't get to see the wonderful solutions the ladies have come up with. So it's at 10 a.m. from 10 to 12. We are doing the exhibition at Asare Hall, and after that, we get to celebrate the ladies during the graduation ceremony.
I'm looking forward to the exhibition Deborah says she has on the day. But tell me about previous experiences. This is not the first time it's happening, is it?
This is the first time it's happening.
Oh, this is the first time it's happening.
So this is our pilot project.
But before that, you've seen some of the participants who are showing promise. Some of them who have, showcased innovations that are mind-blowing, just like what Deborah is telling us. Tell us some of it.
Okay, so we have platforms around early childhood education. So for some of them, they've come up with really engaging way to get children at the early age between 0 and 5 years to get excited about mathematics, to create that foundation. We had a lot of the ladies complaining about math, not wanting to. And then there's usually a lot of complaint around STEM-focused subjects where children have the fear right from the get-go. Now, her idea is about creating a play-based learning that allows the children to get the foundational skills right at the early age. We have other projects focused on, Ghanaian language. When you go online, there's a lot of information around other languages, but then we have things like Duolingo, teaching other languages. You don't have something that is focused on Ghanaian language. Some ladies are looking at Ghanaian language. Others are looking at how teachers can create products that they can, sell on their platform. So any kind of developed products that you have around lesson plans, around any particular topic, any engaging way they use media to create more understanding around subjects that are taught within a classroom based on a GES curriculum. These are some of the engaging things that the ladies will be showcasing during the exhibition. Another key thing is also some of the ladies have gained employment with some of the edtechs that they did and study with. And so these are real impacts that we've experienced with the ladies who have participated in the program.
I can see that a lot of innovation will be on display on that day. Is there a prize for the best person on the day?
Well, it will be interesting to see. What I would say is that, like, everyone, should come in, just look at it. But then definitely it will be exciting to see everyone who shows up at the day. And hopefully, we are also looking at people coming in to support the ladies, because they have, very interesting projects that they are working on. And it will be great to have people support.
I want to pick both of you, your final thoughts before you go. Deborah, I want to begin with you. In a minute, tell us why it is important to come to this convocation and exhibition, and why any woman at all should sign up to WATEC.
Okay, before I give my closing thoughts, I want to thank Dream Mobile Foundation and the Internet Society Foundation as well for giving all of us, all the cohorts members, this opportunity to even exhibit what we've learned. And I think everyone should make their way to Issa Hall because they would see a lot of innovation. They will meet a lot of brilliant minds who are going out of the classroom and breaking bounds to bring out solutions to real problems.
Right. And Karen?
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. We are really happy that we get to do this with female educators. They are wonderful, brilliant minds, as she's mentioned. And it's great that we get to develop the technological and the digital skills with these ladies. We are hoping to see everyone at the event come Wednesday.
Karen Ako is with Dream Oval Foundation.
Yes.
And Deborah Dankwa is a participant. She will be exhibiting at the WeTech Convocation and Exhibition. Ladies, thank you very much for passing through this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you too.
And efforts by the lead counsel for the Ashanti Regional Chairman of the MPP, Bernard Intribuesiako, also known as Chairman Wontumi, has said that he will withdraw his legal services in the ongoing Samra Boy illegal mining trial, but unfortunately suffered a setback, with judgment in the case scheduled for July 3rd. And the Apia-Kubi had maintained over the last few weeks that the court was becoming too personal in its dealings with him, a development, he says, informed his decision to step away from representing his client. The Attorney General subsequently raised a preliminary legal objection to the application. Delivering its ruling today, the Criminal Division of the Accra High Court dismissed the application, describing it as alien to the law and incompetent. And the Apia-Kubi has, however, rejected the decision.
Is it the way to go? Is this how we operate? 3 months, having filed a notice of appeal, I've filed additional grounds of appeal, everything, we're done. We expect that we will settle records. By now, maybe the appeal will have been heard. 3 months, the docket is still in the court. We can't get to the registry for records to be settled. And is this justice or is it an attempt to frustrate the hearing of the appeal? This is one of the reasons why we are also withdrawing. And today, we were in court. We saw what happened. The court is now becoming the bailiff. I was served by an officer of the court sitting a notice of preliminary legal objection. And is this done? Ordinarily, bailiffs are not supposed to even serve parties in the courtroom. We are served outside the court.
And the Apia-Kubi also responded to claims that he is attempting to abandon his client.
Ethical, rather, for a lawyer to do that and explain why, for the court to understand the disengagement, rather than for the accused person to come to court and inform the court that my lawyers have withdrawn. I think we wanted to do the better thing for the court to appreciate why, and also to demonstrate our commitment to our client up to now. And the words of the judge say that we have abandoned. Do you see any abandonment in the relationship that I have with my client? The answer is no. I have not abandoned him. But it is for reasons like what happened today that I wanted officially the court to be informed of decisions that we have taken as counsel.
Well, there's a new development because Chairman Wontumi has now engaged the services of Samuel Atachia as his new legal representative in the case, and he's joining me on the telephone lines right now. For more on this, welcome to the program. What informed your decision to take over Chairman Wontumi's legal team at this critical stage of the proceedings with regards to the Samra Boy case?
Well, when justice is in jeopardy, and you can see that the consequences are very dire for Chairman Wontumi, I do not have any choice. But as a lawyer of some consequence, I should take up this responsibility and see how I'll be able to help him in these very trying circumstances of his life.
If you say justice is in jeopardy, do you sense that he could likely go to jail on July 3rd? That's why you stepped in?
Not necessarily, but to say that when a judge is deprived of the full address of the accused person. You know, that is to say, the judge looks at the cases both ways, what the prosecution has put across, the prosecution's own written submissions to convince the judge that they should secure a conviction. There must be of necessity the position of the accused person in also having his lawyer put it together. Very, very consequential address for consideration of the judge, because the address to the judge, I'm persuaded that there's no evidence properly adduced amounting to prove beyond doubt, and that the case of the prosecution is cut, and therefore the man should be acquitted and discharged. So these are matters very, very, very weighty. I don't see how I will not put my weight behind him and see what we can do about the circumstances of the case.
The court has already fixed July 3rd for judgment. What legal options remain available to the defense between now and then?
Indeed, I don't want to do a fetish of advocacy, and I don't want to do anything that I've not come to terms with. So it behoves me to fetch the record of proceedings and read them thoroughly. Then I'll be able to take a quality decision, because at this point in time, I don't want to do lottery with the life of Chairman Wontumi. It's very expensive to do some short professional job because of time constraints and the rest of it. No. So I'll take my time and look at it. And if I have to, I may address the court about the time constraints, I'll do so.
Right. Well, Andy Appiah-Kubi cited concerns about his relationship with the court as part of the reasons for seeking to withdraw. Do you share any of those concerns, and how do you intend to approach the remainder of the case?
I want to be very professional. I'm not privy to all the kinds of things that happen between Andy Appiah-Kubi and the judge. So I'd rather not comment on it. But I am of the humble view that nobody should be in an ambulance to have somebody jailed. That is what I want to say. Because at the end of the day, you understand, the criminal thought, we'll look at it from the perspective that there's no kind of limitation when it comes to some of these things. And the case is running to nowhere. The case is before the judge. So if somebody wants a respite to sort of put his case across, I know they are very distant, judges. They will always say that, well, let's give them some space to look at the case and then come back. That is my sense of it. Because when a judge saying that, I'm not interested in you letting your lawyer put together a credible written submission for my consideration, that would be very, very serious. Yeah.
Right. And looking at the evidence and arguments presented throughout the trial, how confident are you about Chairman Wontumi's prospects when the court delivers its judgment on the 3rd of July?
To be very honest with you, I will play clairvoyance if I can tell you what the judge wants to do on the 3rd of July. And I've not followed the case as I ought. I've not perused the proceedings. So I beg of you, let me fetch the proceedings, and I know what to do professionally.
Right. What do you make of Andy Appiah-Kubi's professional services to Chairman Wontumi? Done a good job?
As I told you, I've not paid close attention to what has happened, and I will not sit in judgment over my colleague. But whatever it is, there must be some serious considerations for a lawyer to say, midstream, I wouldn't want to continue with the case. I'll leave him to, defend himself. But what I intend doing is to fetch the proceedings. And trust me that I will stay overnight and hard and even consult and look at the proceedings and see how professionally I can come to the aid of Chairman Wontumi. That's what I intend doing.
Samuel Atachia, thank you very much for your time this evening. He's now the lead defense counsel for Ashanti Regional Chairman of the MPP, Chairman Wontumi. Away from that, the Central Regional Police Command has launched a manhunt for a suspect believed to be connected to the death of 20-year-old University of Cape Coast student Innocentia Avinu, whose body was discovered on a beach in Cape Coast. under unclear circumstances. Police say investigations are ongoing to establish the exact circumstances surrounding the death of the level 200 student, with a coroner's form expected from the court to facilitate a post-mortem examination that will help determine the exact cause of death and support the direction of the inquiry, while efforts continue to track down any person of interest in the case. The University of Cape Coast says it is collaborating fully with police as investigations continue. A series of engagements with relevant officials is also underway to determine the way forward and provide support during this difficult time. And here is the Director of Public Affairs at the University of Cape Coast, Dr. Kwame Kunedu, who spoke on the AM show earlier on Joy News.
There are a series of meetings, including the police's investigation and all that. As we speak, we are having the first meeting with the dean's office and some officers in the university, because we are meeting the parents again. But the police investigation continues. You know, if you saw my release, it came on Sunday. We've been working with it. There are a series of meetings. Meetings, including the police's investigation and all that. As we speak, we are having the first meeting with the dean's office and some officers in the university, because we are meeting the parents again. But the police investigation continues. You know, if you saw my release, it came on Sunday. We've been working with the police. We've been working with all stakeholders, but again, issues like this, you leave it to the police to do their thorough investigation, because seriously speaking, it is something that we are all concerned. It's like somebody gets up, I'm going somewhere, the next time the person is not around, then you hear that some 2-3 kilometers away, the person's body is found there, and you know, the circumstances. So the police is working seriously with us to unravel what might be the cause and even who sent her there. And we believe that the police will do a good job for us to get it. In the meantime, we're told by the police that the coroner's form will be ready today, because it was a weekend, Sunday, so they will work on that today. So we are all in anticipation, and we are collaborating with the police to make sure that we'll get to the bottom of this.
Let's get more on this. And Samuel Baji is the uncle of the late Innocentia Avinu. He's joining me on the telephone lines right now with more. First of all, my condolences to the entire family on this devastating news. How is the family coping since the news broke out?
It's not been easy. We are all sad about this tragic news. But nobody expected this to happen to our child. It's not been easy. Well, there's nothing much we can do. Just wait for authorities to investigate this and then get the justice for our daughter.
Authorities have already confirmed that investigations are underway. We've heard from the police service, we've heard from the school, we heard from the education ministry, making so that justice is brought.
Well, as a family, the police have given us full assurance that they're doing their best to bring those behind the act to justice. So we are fully behind and waiting on them to investigate and get us justice. So as a family, we cannot say we are doing any other thing aside waiting authorities to do their work. Yeah.
Right. For those who do not know the late Innocentia, how was she like?
She was a calm person, respectful, and not the type who would say like going out and all that. Yeah, that's what I can say. It's unfortunate that this happened to our daughter, who we know very well, not a deviant type. But it's unfortunate. They have to come to terms with this tragic news.
Well, of course, stories have already started coming up. People are even suggesting that he went out with a certain older person. What has the family been able to establish? Do you have any prior evidence to these claims that she did that?
Social media and their ways of doing things. This unscrupulous bloggers, as I may say,
right,
are the ones doing all these things.
So there's no truth in that.
Did not step up with any older or rich man as they are peddling.
Right.
That is total falsehood. That should be disregarded.
Do you have any word for authorities who have launched investigations into the matter?
Well, since I've gotten full assurance from the police service, and I trust them, they are doing their best, and we are waiting on them patiently to get justice. That is
right. Samuel Baji, thank you for your time this evening. My condolences once again to the bereaved family, and may the soul of the late Innocentia rest in peace, and may her memory be a blessing. That's it for the Pulse this evening. For more news, you can log on to myjoyonline.com. The news team returns at 7 p.m. with News Prime. I'm Kenneth Jesse. Have a good evening.